Being in your 20s is an interesting, unique season. You're no longer a child, and this expectation of you're officially an adult comes into play, and it changes drastically from your young 20s to your mid 20s to your late 20s. At least I've noticed that for me. In your young 20s, you're going to college and you're a college student, and that's almost the label you identify with. I'm a college student, so that's why I don't have money. That's why I don't have food to eat. I'm eating ramen all the time. To mid 20s, where you start having a career and maybe your income's picking up because you're working a consistent schedule. Maybe you're not. I have had those seasons where my schedule's a little bit up and down, but then I'm now in my late 20s, and there's this expectation of you should know what you're doing now. And you're comparing yourselves to this friend is now engaged and this friend's starting to have kids, and I'm still in a season that looks like maybe a young 20s and I'm in my late 20s. So it's this weird, we're kind of all the same age, but we're all in different stages and seasons and progressing differently. And it's easy to look and see, well, that person is about this age and they're accomplishing these great things. And why am I here and still dealing with the same thing, or still lonely, or still going through this specific season? Or why am I in my late 20s and still in college? Maybe you started a little bit later. And what's interesting is we can get so confined in, well, this is what it's supposed to look like, and this is how it's supposed to happen within this time frame. But to remember that we serve a God that is not confined by time. And so I am in my 20s, and I thought it would look a certain way, but God isn't up there saying, oh gosh, she's in her 20s and I'm late. He's not confined to the time and the scheduling that we put on him. And so just learning to not compare, I think, is probably one of the biggest things for my age group. Not comparing your success, where you're at, your singlehood, your parenthood, to someone else. I know a friend who's 22 and is a parent, and I can't imagine being a parent at 22, but they're walking that journey of being a parent and doing that well and what that looks like for them in that age. And I am years older and still navigating what it looks like to be single and trusting on God and his timing and his goodness. And so I think the biggest thing is to remember we don't serve a God who operates in time. He operates outside of time. And that's so freeing to realize that I'm not held to this standard that everyone else is. God has me on my own journey and my own path, and it will look completely different than that person. And what's cool about being in the 20s is it is such a relatable age. I can hang out with a 20-year-old and a 30-year-old and still feel like I'm in a season of life that is relatable. And so just learning that no matter what part of the journey you're on, God has put you in that place to be relatable to somebody in that season. And so whether you're 40 and you feel like you're still 20, you have life experience that is making you relatable, but giving you a voice to speak into someone else's life. And so what is God doing in my life now that's causing me to give advice and input into someone who's maybe 12 and trying to figure out what God's calling them to and what life's going to look like for them? In my season of still waiting, and say, hey, it may happen when you're 20 and it may happen when you're 30, but you can trust that God still has a good plan for you. And so just learning that God has a plan outside of my plan, and I can trust that and learn to wait, because he's not surprised by the timing of things.